It was the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mamma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap, when out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave a lustre of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes did appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment he must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Cupid, on Comet, on Donner and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away all. As leaves that before the wind hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew, like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." The 3 kings came riding from afar, Melchior and Gaspar and Balthazar. 3 wise men out of the east were they, and they travelled by night and they slept by day, for their guide was a beautiful, wonderful star. The star was so beautiful, large and clear, that all the other stars of the sky became a white mist in the atmosphere. And by this they knew that the coming was near of the prince foretold in the prophecy. 3 caskets they bore on their saddle bows, 3 caskets of gold with golden keys. Their robes were of crimson silk with rose, of bells and pomegranates and furbelows, their turbans like blossoming almond trees. And so the 3 kings rode into the west, through the dust of the night, over hill and dell, and sometimes they nodded with beard on breast, and sometimes talked as they paused to rest. With the people they met at some wayside well. "Of the child that is born," said Balthazar, "good people, I pray you, tell us the news. For we in the east have seen his star, and have ridden fast and have ridden far, to find and worship the King of the Jews." And the people answered, "You ask in vain. We know of no king but Herod the Great." They thought the wise men were men insane, as they spurred their horses across the plain, like riders in haste who cannot wait. And when they came to Jerusalem, Herod the Great, who had heard this thing, sent for the wise men and questioned them, and said, "Go down unto Bethlehem, and bring me tidings of this new king." So they rode away, and the star stood still, the only one in the grey of morn. Yes, it stopped. It stood still of its own free will. Right over Bethlehem on the hill, the city of David where Christ was born. And the three kings rode through the gate and the guard, through the silent street to their horses turned, and neighed as they entered the great inn-yard. But the windows were closed and the doors were barred, and only a light in the stable burned. And cradled there in the scented hay, in the air made sweet by the breath of kine, the little child in the manger lay, a child that would be king one day, of a kingdom not human but divine. His mother, Mary of Nazareth, sat watching beside his place of rest, watching the even flow of his breath, for the joy of life and the terror of death were mingled together in her breast. They laid their offerings at his feet, the gold was their tribute to a king. The frankincense with its odor sweet was for the priest Paraclete, the myrrh for the body's burying. And the mother wondered and bowed her head, and sat as still as a statue of stone. Her heart was troubled yet comforted, remembering what the angel had said, of an endless reign and of David's throne. Then the kings rode out of the city gate, with a clatter of hoofs in proud array. But they went not back to Herod the Great, for they knew his malice and feared his hate, and returned to their homes by another way. My mother was not impressed with her beauty. Once a year, she put it on like a costume, plaited her black hair silk as corn slick, down past her hips, in one rope-thick braid, turned it carefully, hand over hand, and fixed it at the nape of her neck, stiff and elegant as a crown, with tortoise pins like huge insects. Since belonging to her dead mother, some to my living grandmother, sitting on the stool at the mirror, she applied a peachy foundation that seemed to hold her down, to trap her, as if we never would have noticed what flew among us, unless it was weighed and bound in its mask. Vaseline shined her eyebrows, mascara blackened her lashes until they swept down like feathers, her eyes deepened until they shone from far away. Now I remember her hands, her poor hands, which even then were old-fashioned from scrubbing, whiter on the inside than they should have been, and hard, the first joints of her fingers little fattened pads, the nails filed to sharp points like old-fashioned ink pens, painted a jolly colour. Her hands stood next to her face, and wanting to be put away, prayed for the scrub bucket and brush to make them useful. And, as I write, I forget the years I watched her pull hairs like a witch from her chin, magnify every blotch as if acid were thrown from the inside. But once a year my mother rose in her white silk slip, not the slave of the house, the woman, took the iron dress from the hanger, allowing me to stand on the bed so that my face looked directly into her face and hold the garment away from her as she pulled it down. Wherever you are when you receive this letter, I write to say we are still ourselves, in the same place, and hope you are the same. The dead have died, as you know, and will never get better, and the children are boys and girls of various several ages and names. So in closing, I send you our love, and hope to hear from you soon. There is never a time like the present. It lasts forever, wherever you are. As ever, I remain. Bethlehem in Germany. Glitter on the sloping roofs, breadcrumbs on the windowsills, candles in the Christmas trees, hearths with pairs of empty shoes, panels of nativity, open paper scenes where doors open into other scenes, some recounted, some foretold. Blizzard-sprinkled flakes of gold gleam from small interiors. Picture boxes in the stars open up like cupboard doors in a cabinet Jesus built. Southern German villages, peasants in the microfrost, see the comet streaming down, heavenly faces each alone. Faces lifted, startled, lost, as if lightning lit the town. Sitting in an upstairs window, patiently the village scholar raises his near-sighted face, interrupted by the star. Left and right his hands lie stricken, useless on his heavy book. When I lift the paper door, in the ceiling of his study, one canary angel glimmers. Fitting in the candelabra, peers and quizzes him. Rabbi, what are the spheres surmounted by? But his lips are motionless. Child, what are you asking for? Look, he gazes past the roofs, gazes where the bitter north, stretched across the empty place, opens door by door by door. This is childhood's shrunken door. When I touch the glittering crumbs, when I cry to be admitted, no one answers, no one comes. And the tailor's needle flashes in the mid-air with thread pulled tight, stitching a baptismal gown. But the gown, the seventh door, turns up an interior hidden from the tailor's eyes. Baby presents like the boxes. Angels hold on streets and stairways. Wooden soldier, wooden sword, chocolate coins in crinkled gold. Hints of something bought and sold. Hints of murder in the stars. Baby's gown is sewn with glitter. Spread across the tailor's lap, up above his painted ceiling, baby mouse's skeleton crumbles in the mouse's trap. Leaning from the cliff of heaven, indicating whom he weeps for, Joseph lifts his lamp above the infant like a candle crown. Let my fingers touch the silence where the infant's father cries. Give me entrance to the village from my childhood where the doorways open pictures in the skies. But when all the doors are open, no one sees that I've returned. When I cry to be admitted, no one answers, no one comes. Clinging to my fingers only, pain like glitter bits adhering. When I touch the shining crumbs, a BB gun, a model plane, a basketball, electric train, a bicycle, a cowboy hat, a comic book, a baseball bat, a deck of cards, a science kit, a racing car, a catcher's mitt. So, that's my list of everything that Santa Claus forgot to bring. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and Santa's a wreck. How to live in a world that's politically correct. His workers no longer would answer to elves, vertically challenged they were calling themselves, and labor conditions at the North Pole were alleged by the Union to stifle the soul. for reindeer had vanished without much propriety, released to the wilds by the human society, and equal employment had made it quite clear that Santa had better not use just reindeer. So Dancer and Donner, Comet and Cupid were replaced with 4 pigs, and you know that looked stupid. The runners had been removed from his beautiful sleigh because the rats were deemed dangerous by the EPA, and millions of people were calling the cops when they heard sled noises upon their rooftops. Second-hand smoke from his pipe had his workers quite frightened, and his fur-trimmed red suit was called unenlightened. To show you the strangeness of today's ebbs and flows, Rudolph was suing over unauthorized use of his nose. He went to Geraldo, in front of the nation, demanding millions in overdue workers' compensation. So, half the reindeer were gone, and his wife, who suddenly said she'd had enough of this life, joined a self-help group, packed and left in a whiz, demanding from now on that her title was Ms. And as for gifts, why, he'd never had the notion that making a choice could cause such commotion. Nothing of leather, nothing of fur, which meant nothing for him or nothing for her. Nothing to aim, nothing to shoot, nothing that clamoured or made lots of noise. Nothing for just girls and nothing for just boys. Nothing that claimed to be gender-specific. Nothing that's warlike or non-pacifistic. No candy or sweets, they were bad for the tooth. Nothing that seemed to embellish upon the truth. And fairy tales, while not yet forbidden, were like Ken and Barbie, better off hidden. For they raised the hackles of those psychological who claimed the only good gift was one ecological. No baseball, no football, someone might get hurt. Besides, playing sports exposed kids to dirt. Dolls were said to be sexist and should be passé, and Nintendo would rot your entire brain away. So Santa just stood there, disheveled and perplexed. He just couldn't figure out what to do next. He tried to be merry, he tried to be gay, but you must have to admit he was having a very bad day. His sack was quite empty, it was flat on the ground. Nothing fully acceptable was anywhere to be found. Something special was needed, a gift that he might give to us all without angering the left or the right. A gift that would satisfy with no indecision each group of people in every religion, every race, every who, everyone, everywhere, even you. So here is the gift, its price beyond worth. May you and your loved ones enjoy peace on earth. In Baltimore there lived a boy who wasn't anybody's joy. Although his name was Jabez Dawes, his character was full of flaws. At school he never led his classes, he hid old ladies' reading glasses. His mouth was open when he chewed, and elbows to the table glued. He stole the milk of hungry kittens and walked through doors marked no admittance. He said he acted thus because there wasn't any Santa Claus. Another trick that tickled Jabez was crying boo at little babies. He brushed his teeth, they said in town, sideways instead of up and down. Yet people pardoned every sin and viewed his antics with a grin, till they were told by Jabez Dawes there isn't any Santa Claus. Deploring how he did behave, his parents swiftly sought their grave. They hurried through the portals pearly, and Jabez left the funeral early. Like whooping cough from child to child, he sped to spread the rumor wild. Sure as my name is Jabez Dawes, there isn't any Santa Claus. slunk like a weasel of a martin through nursery and kindergarten, whispering low to every tot, "There isn't any, no there's not." The children wept all Christmas Eve, and Jabez chortled up his sleeve. No infant dared hang up his stocking, for fear of Jabez ribald mocking. He sprawled on his untidy bed, fresh malice dancing in his head, when presently, with scalp a-tingling, Jabez heard a distant jingling. He heard the crunch of sleigh and hoof, crispy a-lining on the roof. What good to rise and bar the door? A shower of soot was on the floor. What was beheld by Jabez's doors? The fireplace full of Santa Claus. Then Jabez fell upon his knees, with cries of "Don't" and "Pretty please." He howled, "I don't know where you read it, but anyhow I never said it." Jabez replied, the angry saint, "It isn't I, it's you that ain't. Although there is a Santa Claus, there isn't a Jabez Dawes." Said Jabez then with impudent vim, "Oh yes there is, and I am him. Your magic don't scare me, it doesn't." And suddenly he found he wasn't. From grimy feet to grimy locks, Jabez became a jack-in-the-box, an ugly toy with springs unsprung, forever sticking out his tongue. The neighbors heard his mournful squeal. They searched for him, but not with zeal. No trace was found of Jabez Dawes, which led to thunderous applause, and people drank a loving cup, and went and hung their stockings up. All you who sneer at Santa Claus, beware the fate of Jabez Dawes. The saucy boy who mocked the saint, Donner and Blitzen licked off his paint. Grandma got run over by a reindeer. Grandma got run over by a reindeer walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe. She'd been drinking too much eggnog and we'd begged her not to go, but she'd left her medication, so she stumbled out the door into the snow. When they found her Christmas morning, at the scene of the attack were hoofprints on her forehead and incriminating claws on her back. Grandma got run over by a reindeer walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe. Now, we were all so proud of Grandpa. He's been taking this so well. See him there watching football, drinking beer and playing cards with Cousin Belle. It's not Christmas without Grandma. All the family's dressed in black, and we just can't help but wonder, should we open up her gifts or send them back? Grandma got run over by a reindeer walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, we believe. Now the goose is on the table and the pudding made of fig, and a blue and silver candle that would just have matched their hair in Grandma's wig. I've warned all my friends and neighbors, better watch out for yourselves. They should never give a license to a man who drives a sleigh and plays with elves. Grandma got run over by a reindeer walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa, but as for me and Grandpa, I made myself a snowball, as perfect as could be. I thought I'd keep it as a pet and let it sleep with me. I made it some pajamas and a pillow for its head. Then last night it ran away, but first it wet the bed. Once there was a snowman who stood outside the door. He wished that he could come inside and run about the floor. He wished he could warm himself beside the fire so red. He wished that he could climb upon the big white bed. So he called to the north wind, "Come and help me, pray, for I'm completely frozen, standing here all day." So the north wind came along and blew him in the door, and now there's nothing left but a puddle on the floor. Christmas ruins all my efforts around the house, and after months of workouts and celery sticks, Christmas comes and suddenly I can't limit my pick, even though I know I'll need to get a larger blouse. So I decided to write to Santa again, asking why he let all the holidays go to my waste. Post-Christmas does not have such a great taste. Every last bit of food that I like must be banished. If I were old Santa, you know what I'd do. I'd dump silly gifts that are given to you and deliver some things just inside your front door, things you have lost but treasured before. I'd give you back all your maidenly vigor, and to go along with it a neat tiny figure. Then restore the old color that once graced your hair, before rinses and bleaches took residence there. I'd bring back the shape with which you were gifted, so things now suspended need not be uplifted. I'd draw in your tummy and smooth down your back, till you'd be a dream in those tight-fitting slacks. I'd remove all your wrinkles and leave only one chin, so you wouldn't spend hours rubbing grease on your skin. You'd never have flashes or queer dizzy spells, and you wouldn't hear noises like ringing of bells. Nor sore aching feet and no corns on your toes, nor searching for spectacles when they're right on your nose. Not a shot would you take in your arm, hip or fanny, from a doctor who thinks you're a nervous old granny. You'd never have a headache, so no pills would you take, and no heating pad needed since your muscles won't ache. Yes, if I was Santa, you'd never look stupid. You'd be a cute little chick with the romance of a Cupid. I'd give a lift to your heart when those wolves start to whistle, and the joys of your heart would be light as a thistle. But alas, I'm not Santa, I'm simply just me, the matronest of matrons you ever did see. I wish I could tell you all the symptoms I've got, but I'm due at my doctor's for an estrogen shot. Even though we've grown older, this wish is sincere. Merry Christmas to you, and a Happy New Year.